Welcome to the regularly scheduled public meeting of the January 16, 2018 of the Township of Washington Council. Adequate notice of the meeting was given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by the Township Clerk to at least 2 newspapers in January, and this notice has been posted on the Township Bulletin Board and on the Township website. Please notify the municipal clerk for any disability requirements necessary for attendance at mayor and council meetings. The fire exits are located through the double doors at your right and through the door on your left. Please silence all your cell phones. Could we please stand for a salute to the flag?
Thanks.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Councilman Bruno?
Here.
Councilman Casio?
Here.
Councilman Cumming?
Here.
Councilman Ullman?
Here.
Council President DeSena?
Here. We'll have a reading of the total list of bills.
The following is a list of bills paid since the last bill list was submitted, representing December 29, 2017 through December 31st, 2017. Total 2016 reserve, $0. Total 2017 current, $170,802.42, excuse me. Total capital fund, $37,407.88. Total animal control, $200 even. Total trust fund, $3,355.09.
Can I ask you a question, Mike?
Sure, Mr. Wood.
Mary Ann, on these payments, basically, I believe it's all 17 left over from whatever was encumbered. We're now paying, because it has the 17 before each of the payments, so that's last year's.
Yes, actually, we haven't done the rollover, and there are some even additional checks that you may see dated in 17.
Okay.
The rollover is scheduled for tomorrow afternoon.
Is there much, would you know, of 17 that's encumbered that needs to be paid still?
Yes, there's a fair amount. In fact, one of the projects I've been working on is identifying any outstanding purchase orders that were generated or needed to be generated prior to the rollover. And there was a project involving past due balances on certain utilities. I don't know if you recall, but in the budget last year, I asked that you provide some monies for those. I was able to go through and resolve various outstanding balances. So there are a stack of bills to be paid. And when you get the report of what was paid out of the 2017 budget, when you're looking at the 18 budget, you'll see the additional payments. I couldn't begin to even attempt to guess at what they were.
Okay, I just wanted to get.
But there also were a number of purchase orders that were never returned by the mayor, denied or approved. And Mayor Calamari and I have been working on trying to clear those up.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mike.
Anyone else? Moving on, we'll have a presentation from the Township of Washington Ambulance Corps. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. We just need to approve the minutes of the December 18, 2017 closed session meeting minutes. Do I have a motion? So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Abstain.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes.
You should abstain.
I should abstain, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now we'll have a Township of Washington Ambulance Corps presentation. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming tonight.
Okay, I guess I'll start first. Yeah. My name is Rich Myris. I'm the captain of the ambulance corps. With me is Eugene Greco. To my right, he's the president, and to my left is Bob Ravy. He's our lieutenant, one of our lieutenants. So we'd like to thank you for the opportunity to come here tonight. And we we don't want to belabor the meeting or go on for too long, but just a quick overview of what we're doing, and we wanted to hit 3 different areas. One is Eugene's going to go over some details about the new ambulance that we have on order, and then I'll go over some financial information on how we raise money and where our income comes from, where we spend it, and then Bob will talk about membership. So, here's
Thank you,
Eugene.
okay. I'm Eugene Greco, President of the Washington Township Ambulance Corps. All right, we have already ordered, we have ordered a Horton ambulance back on October 1st last year. It took about a year worth of research by 5 members, 3 of us here, and then 2 others, Frank Osman and Nick Tice, just to get everybody credit on it. We put a deposit down of about $50,000. The total cost of the ambulance is $264,000. We added a few extra parts on and additions to the rig based off of the last one, where we now have a 4-wheel drive. Our old rig, you had to put chains on it, which was laborsome in itself. We've also added a air conditioner to the rear compartment as well as the one in the front. The one that we added to the rear was, our old rig was, we had to actually jury rig a small little air conditioner and put it in the side window of the ambulance while it sat in the garage, because it just got too hot, couldn't handle it. We've also put on the power lift for the litter. It's almost like a tow truck. They come down, go under the litter, pick it up, and pull it in. Basically, that was due to the fact that we're an aging ambulance corps. Okay, we don't have a lot of members, young members, and that's where Bob's going to come in. Bob Ravy will talk about that. We are retrofitting let me go back a step. About 4 years ago, we got a power stretcher, automatic hydraulic. Okay, we got that donated by the VFW, Washington Township VFW. That is now we're going to keep that, get it retrofitted to fit that new lift, so that we don't have to go for the extra expense of about 14 grand for a new litter.
Oh.
Yeah, not cheap. Hopefully we will get the delivery of the new ambulance sometime in April. And then we plan on keeping the old rig as a backup rig, because in the past, we always had to borrow on the rig from neighboring towns. Usually it was Emerson, a couple times it was Rivervale, because when ours goes out for service, it would take a week or so. And then that way we stay in service and we don't have to worry about not being around. The only other option that we put on the new ambulance is that there's a new radios, digital radio that's being purchased, and they are extremely expensive also. They're like $6,000 per radio, and it's like a $500 installation fee. That's about it on the ambulance. On the other thing that I wanted to briefly touch base on was that we are in the process of getting a first response trailer that can be used as a command center for anybody within the Pascack Valley area. They can use it, both police, fire, and ourselves, ambulance. We're currently working on that with Tom Sears had originally started it, and we've been working together with him on that and trying to get funding from various organizations and some of the senators and so on and so forth. Right now, it's a little slow in progressing because of, I guess, the elections and everything else. So we're going to get back on that coming up in the next month or two, and hopefully we'll have that by April too. And then we'll have a good showing for the Memorial Day Parade. That's about all I got.
Eugene, what's in this first response trailer? What is?
I'm sorry,
What's the function of that?
It's a
specifically?
command center,
Just a
basically.
command center.
Yeah, and radios, and it will have a litter or a stretcher in it. They can do some basic first aid. You know, will also be used at town functions like Town Day.
Okay.
When Westwood High School has that Walk for Life. And, you know, usually I've been there where I've slept in the rig, sitting up.
You just leave the center there?
Yeah, just leave the center there, you know, so that everybody, you know, and like I said, it'll have everything that would be in an ambulance, but it'll be in the command center.
Okay.
For everybody.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, just to add on what Eugene had said, that command post will also have a generator, it'll have lights, awnings, you know, it can be set up for, like, if there was ever any major incident in town where the police or anyone needed kind of like a base of operation, we could bring it and set it up right away.
Yeah, for mass
So
casualties.
overnight, it would have its own light source and all. I just want to segue into now
Can I ask
finances.
one question? I'm sorry. Where are you going to house that? Where are you going to leave it?
Probably going to be somewhere on ambulance property on the side. And then, of course, going to have to look for some kind of shelter for it, like one of those, what do they call them? Quonset hut type, you know?
Fabric shelter?
Yeah, something like that. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, that's probably what we'll try to do also for the backup ambulance if we keep it, because it really should be kept out of the weather and plugged in, you know, so that, you know, the batteries stay charged and the engine heater stays on. So that's something else, that's another project we'll work on.
Excuse me, just one other question on the
Yeah.
ambulance itself. How old is the existing rig, just so the public knows about how much?
By the time we get it,
You just happened to ask. I just dug out the window sticker
Wow.
from the ambulance. It's a 2008. It was
Okay,
bought,
so
I think
you
we got
about 10
it.
years?
Yeah, about 10 years.
Yeah.
And it's been, looking back in history, I think we usually got around 7 or 8 years. This one's happened to be 10 years we got out of this one.
Okay, good to
And
know.
it's only got, it's got 63,000 something miles on it, but they're tough miles.
Yes, of
Because all of our calls are more or less an hour, and then we start and stop. So it's, but,
It's a cream puff.
it's a cream puff. It's a cream puff. Well, this past year, we had a lot of trouble with it, a lot of repairs on it. So just as a comparison, and I'll get into financial, the chassis price alone back in 2008 was $40,900. The new one is $52,000, the chassis alone. So that's an increase of $10,000. Of course, the new one we're getting is an F-Series truck. It's a different style truck. The E-Series is like a camper type, where the engine is partially in the compartment where the drivers are. This is more like an F-150 pickup. It's an F-550.
and you need that for the
So,
four-wheel drive.
for the four-wheel drive and the weight of the ambulance and all, so this is a beefed-up truck. It's an F-550
Better duty.
four-wheel
better
drive.
duty.
And the engine is out front instead of inside the cab.
It doesn't require a CDL license, does it?
No, it does not, no. So just to go back on income, most of our money actually comes from two main sources. One is the donations from the township citizens, township residents who donate on our two fundraising drives every year. And the second part is from the township, the amount of money that's given to us by Washington Township as part of their budget. We also get donations from corporate sponsors like Oritani Bank, the Charitable Foundation. We got the VFW gave us the money for the litter. That was a couple of years ago. We've had a private citizen gave us money one year to buy all new jackets. That was, something like that. The chest compression defibrillator donation we got a couple of years ago. I think, I don't remember what group that was, but Tom Sears, I know, was involved in that. It was like a fundraiser they did through the library. The library, right.
was involved.
We know that the Unico, and this is a plug for them, if this is going out over the air somehow, Unico is sponsoring a beefsteak dinner where they're going to split the whatever they make on this beefsteak dinner for all the ambulance corps in the valley. Okay. And that'll be held on February 17th at the KSC. So that's coming up. And I just got word tonight that the Women's Club wants to actually buy something for us, for the ambulance, so we're gonna see what we need and what, you know, what their budget is, and we'll give them some ideas of what we might need. We're trying to also squirrel away some equipment for the new truck when it comes here. So,
Rich, you mentioned that automatic chest compression machine. Have you had to use that? Does it come in?
yes, we
handy?
actually have used it. We've
Yeah.
used it a couple times.
Great.
And it really, when you're doing CPR, it's
Yeah, it's intense, I'm
that's
sure.
a tough job.
Yeah.
And this gives consistent compressions, and it allows us to work on other things.
And it
So,
gives better compressions than a person can
Great.
give.
right,
It's also very advantageous when we have to move the patient.
right.
Because when we move them and doing it CPR ourselves, you know, it's very hard to fit, you know, 2, 3 people through a doorway.
Sure.
You know, so.
Yeah, because
we hook that up and it,
Yeah.
It
Great.
actually straps to the person, so when we used to, if we had moving CPR down a stairway, let's say, we had to stop and then get the person down the stairs and start CPR again. This continues compressions as we bring them down the steps. So it's really, a really nice machine.
definitely.
So we hope not to have to use
Right,
it, but
of course.
we have it. So that's the important part of, you know, the donations that we get and the monies, that we want to stay on top of technology. The new ambulance is much more truck than we have now. Eugene mentioned the chains. You know, if this storm tonight or tomorrow was a big storm, we'd be, say, do we put the chains on? Do we take the chains off? What do we do? Because we don't know what the conditions are going to be. With four-wheel drive, we just put it in four-wheel drive and we're good to go. So this is going to be a big change for us.
Yeah, definitely.
So I know that the township, back in 2008, or 2009, when we got the last truck, the township started putting some money away on our behalf in a budget someplace, it's here, towards the new ambulance. So somewhere in April, we may be coming to you
Okay.
for whatever the amount's in
money's
there.
there.
And then we're hoping that when we get the new one, that maybe start squirreling money away again for us, because the next one's probably going to be in 2028, if we go 10 years.
Yeah.
And who knows what the price will be, but it may be an electric ambulance, it may be a self-driving ambulance, it might be robots, I don't know. But that's where the technology is taking us. And we like to buy, if we can afford, we like to buy what's available on the market. And just the other day, I heard about it, and we're doing some research, that there's a new visor type of a piece of equipment that is being worked on and invented, where you can put it on a person's head, and in 2 minutes, it'll tell you whether they're having a stroke or not. So it's like Star Trek. I don't know how it works, but if we can get one and we can afford to get one, we'd like to put it on. You know, we carry EpiPens. We had Narcan training. We have whatever we can afford to have. We have. So I think I covered all of the items, and we use also the money that we have for training, for equipment, for uniforms, for whatever else we need for our members. So. Yeah, and then I mentioned the chassis prices, and that's just indication. The old ambulance bottom line was about $165,000. I went back and looked in the records by the time we added some extras on. And the new one, without buying a new litter, because we're going to refurbish it, is $264,000. So it's quite a truck, though. This Horton ambulance, with all the options that we have on it, is going to be quite a new thing for us.
The difference part of the difference is that it's four-wheel drive. It's the bigger chassis, four-wheel drive. And it's got a lot more electronics for us in the back to monitor and help people and so on and so forth. So it's not, it's trying to stay up to date is what it is.
And one of the options that's got in it, which it really didn't actually cost all that much, because most cars that you buy now have cameras. They have rear cameras and all. This has an option on it where the driver will have a screen right next to him, and it'll have cameras around the whole ambulance, so he'll get, in one view, an aerial look from, like, as if he's a bird looking straight down on top of the ambulance. He can see all around it. If anybody's standing on the sides, if a door is open, if there's somebody there that shouldn't be. And so
great.
it's pretty neat.
Does this one also have a new safety system for the personnel in the back for restraints?
Oh, yeah,
during an
right.
accident?
Yes.
Right, it has
It
the
does have that.
harnesses.
You did-
It has a 3-point arm.
And the-
So it
and,
restrains you during it?
And we
Yeah.
actually took test drives. We went around to Gloucester, and we went to Ridgewood. We went, I think we went up to Mawa, where they brought their truck to us. But when you're in the back, you have a harness, and it has hand grips, almost like you're on a plane. But it allows you to move around. You're tethered in, so you're working on the patient. But if there's a rollover or an accident, those tethers are going to lock up, so you won't bounce around. Plus, it has airbags inside the box in all the corners that'll deploy if you have an accident. And the other thing they work on, and we're going to stay on, is that in the new one, no piece of equipment can be loose. Everything has to be someplace secure. So you don't get a problem where the equipment starts flying around like a missile in the back. So between the airbags and the harnesses and everything secure, it's
Be a big safety
quite a bit
improvement.
safer.
Big
Yeah.
safety improvement.
Right.
Excuse me, Rich, just one question. You mentioned that there was an investment in digital radios on this rig?
Right. Actually, there was an ordinance back in, where did I have the number? Back in 13-10 is the ordinance number. It was back in, what was the date? In May of 2013, actually. We had never exercised that. So just recently, I signed off on a purchase rec, I think, for a new digital radio from Regional Communications for $4,300. That's what it cost. And they had added onto that the labor cost of $1,200, which instead Horton said, no one touches the truck but us. So they're doing it for $500. So we saved like $800 right there. So we'll be buying that radio soon. Whenever we see what the lead time is, we'll order the radio. And it's digital and analog, so that...
Will it integrate with the police and with the fire?
Yeah, because the police, I think, are still on analog, but the chief already told me they're looking to go to digital. So we can operate on digital, and I'm in analog, and then we can switch right over to digital.
Okay.
So we'll be right on top of that radio issue when we get the truck.
When you get
Thank you.
Bob?
All right, so we're in constant need of new members, so we're always trying to recruit. One of the biggest challenges to volunteer organizations throughout the country, including especially EMS, is getting people who can volunteer their time. We're living in a day where we've got 1,000 TV channels, 24-hour internet, and 5 soccer games a week for the kids, and nobody has time. So we're always looking for people that have time that they can contribute. We currently have 4 people who are in training right now in the course, and they'll be graduating the end of this month, so we're looking forward to adding them to our ranks. You may have seen some of the recruiting efforts in the town center, and we want to thank the people at the town center who allow us to go there and set up and recruit. Becoming an EMT, obviously, a noble task, great way to give back to the town. Any able-bodied person can volunteer and take the course. We pay for the training, we pay for the gear, and it's just a matter of giving your time. It's 250 hours for the training course. So any able-bodied person 16 or over, we've recently had a couple of members that were in their 50s and 60s that joined our ranks and are contributing greatly. And so we want to encourage anybody who thinks that they might be able to do that. No medical training or experience is necessary, and you know, we encourage everybody to come and at least talk to us if they have an interest.
EMR.
So the EMR
Well, there's an EMT training that's the 250 hours. There's also an EMR training that is a lesser training. Doesn't qualify you for the EMT certification, but you would still be, you know, making a contribution. Myself, I came down to the Corps from an ad for just ambulance driver. Didn't really think that I could be an EMT, and you know, become fully engaged since then. And Mary Green, who is our secretary, convinced me to take the course, and I'm very glad that I did. And so we encourage everybody who may have any interest to come down and speak to us.
That's it.
Okay.
Any questions, anybody?
Is it to volunteer, is it a requirement to work in the area, or do you have people that
do shift work at night? I mean,
We
some
do
people,
have- we do have some people that are not living in the area, but if they don't live in the area and they're not within a reasonable space to respond quickly, then they spend their time at the building during their shift. That's, whether that's an overnight that they sleep over, or we also have some younger members who will spend the night there. So we prefer people, obviously, that are in town,
sure.
but anybody who is close enough to respond, we would be interested in speaking with them, and anybody willing to stay at the building also.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any
Just-
questions?
I'll go out on a limb and say on behalf of the governing body and the residents of the town, we greatly appreciate what you and all the members do.
Thank you.
I know people that have called the ambulance, and, nothing but total compliments, professional, everything like that. So thank you and everyone for their service.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you for the time.
Absolutely.
So, just, Mary Ann, just so we, there were two numbers that were mentioned, ordinance 13-10, and I don't know what's in that, and there's also a fund that the ambulance is looking, that we apparently put away some money. So
Right.
I don't know, I just don't remember what those amounts were, so,
Well, yeah, Peter mentioned that when they need it, it's there and it's available. I have no idea what the number is at this point. I know in the last few years, it's been 5,000 that's been budgeted for that
Okay.
purpose. As far as the ordinance, I had brought that to their attention a while ago, actually, beginning of last year, initially. There was some pushback from the former mayor, and we got it done, one of the first orders of business this year.
okay.
There was about 7,000 in that ordinance, and they just, with the actual equipment, it's, 4,300-ish. And then the installation, and then if it's not needed for other pieces of equipment, we'll cancel it out.
Right.
Can we just ensure that the funding that's there is enough to get the ambulance corps their rig that they need with the funding that's there? Can we?
I
we
think
get
they
all-
already have, well, we'll work
I'd
with
like
them
to,
for sure.
can we get the numbers so we make sure that they have what they need to get their new ambulances? I just want to ensure that we're not waiting till April to do this. I'd like it in my hands for the next meeting, please. That'd be great. Is that correct, Mr. Brown?
Yep, that's fine. Thank you.
Mr. Casser?
Yeah, I'm good.
I'd like to open up the meeting to the public. We'll have a 5-minute time limit. I'd like a motion to open.
So moved.
Second.
Would anybody like to come up and address the council?
Councilman Bruno?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yes.
I'm rushing.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Would anybody like to come up and address the council? If you could come up and please state your name and address.
Hi, good
Good evening.
evening. Good evening. My name is Belinda Madera, and this is my husband, Bienvenido Polanco. We call him Tony from his middle name.
And
So
your
we
address-
live
and your address?
544 Hoover Avenue.
Okay.
Yes. So we have been residents of this town, Washington Township, since April 2001. My husband is a limo driver. He operates in New York City, basically. He has TLC license from New York City. But we own a vehicle, and it's a Cadillac Escalade, which we have in our driveway. It has limo plates, and in order to get the limo plates, you have to go to DMV, and you have to say that you operate, that you're operating from here. For the past 3 years, we've been getting a letter saying, that the town authorizes us to park our vehicle and operate. When we say operate, it's not really, we don't have any signage, we don't have any flow of traffic, because what we do is we have an app. All of you are familiar with Uber, for example. This is, let's say, a higher class Uber. So he'll drive CEOs, celebrities, there's athletes that are clients of ours. We get referrals. So it's not that someone calls us on the phone, it's basically through the app, and, it's owner-operator. This year, we were told that it was in fact issued in error, and this came about because our 215 Escalade, we just traded it in, and we got a 218, and we need the letter for the town in order to get the license again. In fact, we're using the same license plate, they just need to transfer the plates, but we were told that the letter is not possible. And I want to see, what we can do. Again, there is no signage, there's...
It's just a black Escalade.
Yes, and we have no signage in our home, we don't have flow of traffic, and the fact is...
So if you go down the block, all you'll see is a TLC plate versus a New Jersey regular plate.
Exactly.
You wouldn't be able to tell unless I looked at your license plate.
Exactly. That's the only thing.
And there was a letter issued previous?
Yes,
And
yes.
whom issued that letter?
From the township over here at...
Do you have a copy of the letter? Huh?
I have... let's see.
I did one last year, and then the previous clerks before that.
Here's one, a copy,
You have
if you
copies
need
of
to
these?
see it.
I don't have them.
With you, but in
Yeah, I
the
have
the
them.
office, they have copies.
Okay, all right. We'll take a look.
The certificate of insurance, we have 1.5 million, which is required by the TLC, and we have a Township of Washington as certificate holder, as was required when we initially got this. So the fact that this year we can't do this after we just purchased the vehicle, and this is our source of income, we're in a bind now.
Well, let me just jump in here. So I don't know if this is the one, because we've had a couple of these.
This is the third one.
This is the third, okay. So we've had issues of whether a actual business was being conducted out of somebody's house. A car, more than one car, actually operating the business, taking calls, and doing things other than just parking your car there. Parking your car there is not a big deal.
Right.
Operating a business is a different. It's not a permitted use in the zone. If you had 2-3 cars, if you had drivers there, I mean, if you just. I'm just saying how these things come out. So now I don't know whether I'm not sure that I've seen this particular application. This may be the last one that you were going to send to me. I didn't see that.
They just came in today.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, but, so,
Okay.
I didn't get a chance to look at this one, but we've had issues.
Scenario.
Okay, but we've had issues of somebody else who said they had a business operating out of a different town, and they would just park their car there. I'm just giving background. So we kind of look into these things to make sure it's not a business, because you can imagine that in a residential zone, we don't want people running 2-3 cars and, leaving from there. I'm not saying you're doing that, but I didn't see that one today, so I will certainly take a look at it today. I mean, after,
Well, I will say that after he was in this morning, in
Right.
fact, while you were still in my office, I sent an email out to the zoning officer just to double check
Okay,
what
he
the
said
zone
fine.
is.
Okay.
No, he
Oh.
said it's residential.
a residential, okay, all
Where
right,
they
okay,
are.
all right, okay.
So I explained the situation, that if they had a business in another town, they would just bring a car home like the one we did have.
Right.
That was permissible,
Right.
but not to run a business. I suggested they could go to the zoning board, get an application, go in front of the zoning board for approval. Or I also sent an email to Council President today to ask if we could have a discussion to consider looking at the ordinance, if there's a way that we could help. These are these people's livelihoods. And another one, it's his livelihood. There is nothing else. It's not a side job. This is their job, what pays for their bills. So I was going to ask for some conversation tonight.
Right. This is exactly the
so
same
can we
scenario.
put this
This
on
is
the-
what,
Can we put this on the conference agenda?
Yeah.
Can we put it on the conference agenda? We'll discuss it in a little while, if you don't mind.
sure.
Have you ever received any tickets from the police department?
Nothing.
Or a zoning letter or anything?
Nothing. We've
Okay.
never
We'll
received
discuss
one
it.
single
Okay.
complaint, not a complaint about noise or people coming in
Your
and out.
neighbors
because
don't have an issue with it?
Nothing.
And the business has been in existence how long?
Since 2015, the business.
Okay.
But he's
to
been
that.
TLC licensed for approximately 30 years.
So you've been doing it for that long?
Yes.
And during that time, were you taking a car home, even from when it started?
Yes, because, so he used to work, for example, he used to work with, he used to be an employee of companies. He worked for Music Express,
So you
what's
just
the
created your own business.
CLS, even Arrowwood years and years ago. And in fact, with Arrowwood, they lend the car to the driver to bring home. But then in 2015, he decided to become his own owner-operator. And
Congratulations.
yeah, thank you, because he has enough referrals and
Great.
yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We'll discuss
for
it in a
listening.
short
Yes,
period.
thank you.
Would anybody else like to come up and address the council?
Mary Ann Osmond, 960 Adams Place. First thing I would like to know is, are we doing anything with the clock?
Yes, there was a requisition that was approved, subject to the rollover, a purchase order can be issued. It was approved by the mayor, and it's going to be created as soon as the rollover happens.
So-
We have a gentleman who can fix it.
Okay, and is he going to do it before the time changes, and will he come back to change it for the time change?
We'll take one step at a time. We'll get it operational, and
Okay.
then we'll go from there.
Okay. Then I wanted to know, did the council get the budget? I know that's been discussed.
No, we have not received. it.
Okay, that's all, I just wanted an answer, I don't. Okay, now, I also want to know, has the mayor picked any new appointments for the 4 that were not approved? Have you gotten a new list of those?
We have not received the new list from the mayor.
Okay. Well, I've looked at all the brochures that were sent out from the Republican Party, and on every one of those brochures, it says, it's time for a new township. Even the primary one says, it's time for a new township. And it's time for a new township. Well, with picking all of the exact same people that were appointed by the former mayor, it doesn't look like we're going for a new township. Also, I want to thank Mr. Bruno for looking up all the times that the council had change of government on their agendas in the last year. And that's contrary to the disparaging remarks that Mayor Calamari made. And I also checked out all the agendas. I went after Mr. Bruno mentioned the amount. Mayor Calamari should have checked himself. He made his comments that Mr. Bruno was just bringing up the subject since he lost. I found that Mr. Calamari won the election by 118 votes, which is not what I consider a landslide. And it's interesting enough that if 60 of those votes went to Mr. Bruno, he would have won. It was such a shame that there was such a dirty election. I have been part of elections in the township since 1986, and this is by far one of the worst. What happened at a public meeting by Drew Kraft, former Washington Township police officer, was a disgrace in my opinion. I was told that the election was going to be above board, and then the bomb, which in my opinion was a setup. I do hope that now we can move forward with a truly new township, run by new idea people who want what is best for the residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
I disagree with a lot of that, but I'll wait because we have appointments on the agenda further down to discuss it.
Would anybody else like to discuss anything with the council? Seeing no others, motion to close the public discussion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Under ordinances, adoption second reading, there being none, we'll proceed to the first reading of ordinance number 18-01, an ordinance providing for the improvement and signalization of the intersection of Washington Avenue and Pascack Road, located in the Township of Washington in the County of Bergen, New Jersey, and appropriating $400,000 therefore. Motion to introduce and pass ordinance number 1801 at first reading by title.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, before you have your vote, can we have a little discussion on that?
So you want to discuss?
You should have to, well, I have a couple of comments on it. I think you ought to be listening to it, whether you like it or you don't like it. I think you should listen to it. And then you can certainly vote the way you intend to vote anyway. So,
Sure.
Just I wanted to put on the record a few things about the ordinance, which I did have a chance to look at. It was given to everybody at the reorganization meeting. It really wasn't discussed, it was just given to everybody at the reorganization meeting, and now I guess it's being voted on without being discussed as well. That's unusual, but aside from that, the ordinance itself, let's kind of go to that. I don't know who prepared the ordinance, but if you go through it, it's an interesting ordinance. It looks like it's trying to be a capital improvement ordinance, but it's also looking like it's trying to be a bond ordinance. It's got some provisions in here which are very unusual, to say the least, and troubling further. Number one, that there is no room for a statement of requesting the establishment of a capital improvement fund, since the capital improvement fund already exists. That's number one. And number two, asking for the $400,000 be appropriated in the ordinance is not what an ordinance does. I mean, I don't know that an ordinance actually even should be doing that, can be doing that, but that's section number one. Section number two talks about the purpose of this ordinance. The improvement is described in section 3, but if you read section 3, it doesn't have anything in terms of a purpose. It has some legalese language, but it doesn't have any purpose. It reads, the following additional matters are hereby determined, declared, recited, and stated. The said purpose described in section 3 of this ordinance is not a current expense and is a property or improvement which the township may lawfully acquire or make as a general improvement, and no part of the cost thereof has been or shall be specially assessed on property specially benefited thereby. I don't know if you guys have heard a purpose in there, but there is no purpose. It's just general language and has nothing to do with anything. So the actual ordinance does not really have a purpose. The next section is section 4, which is highly unusual in that it actually is contractual provisions or provisions you would find in a memorandum of understanding of responsibilities. Certainly not something that you would put in an ordinance. As a matter of fact, it in effect ties the hands of the township, or tries to tie the hands of the township, to lock them into things even if they did not want to do it contractually, or even if they could get the county to assume any part of any of these provisions that are set forth in this ordinance. Highly unusual for contractual provisions to be put into an ordinance. Section 5, not sure at all what that's supposed to be doing. Again, language, it's just language. It's just language thrown in. Not sure what it's trying to do. I don't know if you've actually consulted the auditor. Did you consult the auditor on this ordinance?
Mr. Bruno? I didn't write it. I did not.
Yeah, I talked to the auditor about.
You talked to Mr. Mai? Okay, and what did he say about where the money is coming from and what the ordinance should be doing?
Yeah, he talked about it.
Oh, you talked about it. Okay, so what did he say?
He said that if we needed the ordinance for a capital improvement, we could do it through this particular venue.
Through this venue. This ordinance, he's looked at this ordinance and said this ordinance was good? He did not look at this ordinance and say this ordinance is good, right?
He looked at it.
And he said, he looked at it and he said it was good. Okay, well, I guess, not practicing law, I guess he's doing his auditing, but he's not practicing law.
Okay.
I also would say that this kind of ordinance normally would be run by Bob Byfield, our bonding attorney, even though it's not the incurring of debt. He usually looks at these ordinances really quick, just to make sure that everything is in order. It's certainly beneficial to the town, and there's really relatively no cost involved to do that. So for all those reasons, I think that this ordinance is not appropriate, defective according to its terms, and should not be adopted. Certainly, it's taking away the ability of the township to negotiate costs
Mr. Pollard,
Yeah.
those 21 items you're referring to
Right.
are the contractual language given to us by the County of Bergen
Okay.
that Mayor Sopkowitz, the former mayor, refused to sign 10 years ago.
Okay,
We've been sitting on this for 10 years.
right.
That language is contractually obligated by the County of Bergen. There is no changing that language.
Okay, well, but the
So,
bottom...
so when you're
Yeah.
saying it's a defect and we can get more out of the County of Bergen, what we're getting out of the County of Bergen is a brand-new signal that the citizens of this town have been waiting for over 10 years, and it's sitting on a shelf. So that language, whether you say it's defective or not, is part of the agreement with the County of Bergen that we cannot change.
Okay.
And that was given to, and the
Yeah.
past council gave that to the mayor to sign, and she did not sign it, and therefore the project didn't proceed.
Okay, all I'm saying is that was...
So I don't understand how you're saying it's defective.
Well, it's
because-
defective in the other respects. I just threw that one in as one of the...
Well, you said it was
yeah.
defective, well, you just said it was defective, so
Yeah.
it is
Yeah.
defective or it
Well,
is not defective.
no, I think
But
it's-
I'm just saying, those 21 items are not
Okay.
negotiable.
Okay, those 21 items, let's focus on the 21 items. You're talking about an ordinance that was prepared 10 years ago. 10 years ago. I believe there's going to be meetings with the county to go
We
over
just, these 21 items were given to us a week
today,
ago
a week ago, by the county?
by the County of Bergen. It was emailed to me by the Assistant County Engineer and included in this ordinance.
And did you share that with everybody on this dais, including the
No, I-
administration?
no.
No, you didn't, okay. Well, interesting.
Well-
Okay.
Well, I did share last meeting that she gave me the schematic diagram, which I presented to everybody on this days, including yourself. So yes, but those 21 items were listed on that package.
Okay, well, I gave you five reasons why I believe that the ordinance is not appropriate. So, from my point of view, and I'm not talking about politically, and I'm not talking about...
This isn't a political thing. This is
Okay,
a matter of the council.
Can you let me
moving
finish?
forward. Yes.
Let me finish? I'm just talking about an ordinance being an ordinance, okay? Which, if you look at the code, I'm supposed to prepare the ordinances, okay? That's who prepares the ordinances. If you looked it up, that's who prepares the ordinances, and there is a reason for it. Because it would not have been set up without a purpose, where it's supposed to have a purpose, and it would not have language in it that should not, even aside from this 21 item thing, it would not have all of that. I'm just saying that I've given you my view of the ordinance. It has nothing to do with how long you've been waiting. It has nothing to do with the intersection, because I'm in favor of the intersection. I think it's a great project. Should be moved expeditiously, should be moved as quickly as possible, so it's not a question of stopping the project. I think the project is great and it should be done, but it should be done correctly. And I don't think you're doing it correctly, but you can do it any way you want.
So what are the defects? I mean, so we want, this is proposing that we appropriate $400K for the improvement of the intersection.
Which could be done very simply. Which could be done, but this thing doesn't really do it. But it can be done, it's not a big problem. It could be done if you would have said, get a capital improvement ordinance done and get it in introduction form, you would have had it probably for the next meeting, or the next meeting at the worst, the next meeting thereafter. I'm just shocked, well, not shocked, I'm not shocked at anything. I'm surprised that, to see this kind of an ordinance, which, if anybody looked at this, if Mr. Beinfield looked at this, if any lawyer looked at this, they would be saying, okay, so what is it? It's not really doing what it's supposed to be doing, in the way it's supposed to be doing. It almost looks like you're saying, geez, somebody must be against this, so let's make sure it happens, but this is gonna happen. This can happen anyway. The ordinance would be an appropriate ordinance to pass. You certainly have the votes to pass it. But I'm a fan of doing it the right way, and that's why I'm saying what I'm saying. Let somebody say later on, how come this ordinance was passed in the form that it's being proposed.
So, Ken, just so I understand, is the town in some sort of, I don't want to say liability, but are we exposing ourselves to a potential liability based upon what's written here? From a legal standpoint?
From a legal standpoint, to me, this is not an appropriate legal capital improvement ordinance. Now, is somebody going to challenge it? Maybe not. Maybe you'll be going along and you'll be doing what you want to do, and it's perfectly okay. It's only a question of the record being correct and the document being correct. That's all. And if this is something that you wanted to do, all I'm saying is it could be done in a matter of a couple of weeks as opposed to getting an email, not sharing it, giving an ordinance, not discussing it, and coming up with this document, which is not really a proper...
Well, I take a little umbrage on you saying not sharing it. This was provided to you at the last meeting.
I'm talking about the list of items is what I was talking about.
It was,
The list.
this exact ordinance was given to you at the last meeting.
The list from the county, you said it came from the county?
Yes.
So I think, I would have thought...
Well, it was put into the ordinance. which we received a
I
copy of.
think that the administration deserved to find that, to know that the county said this is what they want to see, the town
The
commits
mayor,
it.
the mayor is discussing with the county also. I'm sure he received the list.
Well, did you receive that list?
I haven't received anything, and I'm very shocked and surprised that the council is off doing this on their own when I said I was going to have a meeting in the next few weeks. We shouldn't be double teaming the county.
We need to move on this, Mr. Mayor.
I agree, but, you know,
And time is of the essence.
I agree with that also.
This is something we
You're
both
doing something now with the county, and I'm doing something.
I'm not doing, right now, I just requested the list of the 21 items.
That's doing
the
something,
mayor-
isn't it?
But that was months ago we did this, so.
Well, I didn't know it was done months ago.
And we need, time is of the essence, and that's what
No one
we're
is
trying to
saying
prove
time
here.
is not of the
But
essence.
it's something that needs to be resolved
But
immediately.
what's to
because-
stop Councilman Ullman from taking his own thing up with the county, and Councilman Cumming? That's why, you know, we should have a point person, to me, that should be the administration, who this is funneled through. I have a meeting set one day next week, and it's going to happen, time is of the essence, but we have to maintain some type of order. We can't have everyone reaching out to the county saying, well, I have this deal with you, I have this deal.
Nobody,
So-
I don't know what deals we're talking about, but I'm speaking for myself. I don't have any deals with the county or anybody else. All I'm doing is trying to get this township through this horrific condition.
We all are.
At Pascack and Washington.
We all are.
And it seems that we need to pick up the pace and get this moving quicker. That's all we're trying to do here.
You know, some of us have been in a while, some have been in as recent as 2 weeks. We know that the challenges
I
that
know
face
I've only been here
under-
for 2 weeks, but I think things, I ran on the platform of change,
Yes.
just like you did.
Yes,
And it's time to change and get moving on this.
I couldn't agree more.
But you don't agree with us because it's not happening. So, that's my comment.
Okay.
May I make a statement?
Mr. President?
Oh, go ahead.
Yes,
I
Mr.
just want to say that I'm 1,000% in favor of moving ahead in an orderly and careful manner with whatever it takes to get the intersection done at the least cost and greatest benefit to the township. I noticed that on the last page of this document, at the bottom, the second reading approval, I believe the names are wrong. Does not include you or me,
Okay.
and it does include Mr. Calamari, who's no longer the
Table.
council.
Okay. Thank you.
So,
Thank you very
so
much.
again, we're rushing something through, and we all agree it should be rushed through, but how quick are we rushing this through that we can't even check names on a document?
That was my fault.
So,
So it's okay.
Mr. President, may I?
Yes, Mr. Bruno.
So, Ken, I understand your point. So what does it take, as I say, to legalese this correctly? So is this, I read these things and I just read them and read them and read them, as you know. So what does it take to legalese, put this in legalese terms where we're protected, the town's protected, there's no liability? If you feel
It just
other
needs
than...
to be, it just needs to be redrafted. I mean, the purpose of it is not, it's not a wrong purpose. As I said before, I think it's the right purpose, it's a great purpose, everybody is in favor of it. I just think it needs to be redrafted correctly.
So, okay, so,
And I would run it by Mr. Byfield. He would do that in the matter of like 10 minutes after it was drafted. So,
so what would, just so we know, what would it take for you to redraft this?
yeah, it wouldn't take much. It would take, time-wise?
Yeah, I mean,
I would
when
have-
can we
I would-
get it
I-
to Byfield? Like the end of this week, early next week?
Early next week, I'd have it to him, and he'd probably have it done, and, back to you guys, and you could have a proper introduction, and then everybody would be happy that it was done correctly and that you were getting what you wanted.
Yeah, I mean, I think, obviously, the intention, and Peter, just so you know, the intention obviously is to get this done,
course.
to get something out there.
Of course.
We're all chomping at the bit. The residents are chomping at the bit. So what the intention here is, okay, guys, let's get this out there, and let's get it on the agenda. Let's put it on the tracker. Let's do it somewhere, but let's start. So if the legalese has to be done, you guys can correct me if you're not happy. I think to protect the town and us, if the 21 items are 21 items that have to be there, and Mr. Paula agrees, and that's what it is, that's what it is. But if there's some other stuff in here that limits us, and I don't know if it does or it doesn't, and if it does have to go to Byfield, then that's a different story too. When we did the ordinance for the Memorial Field renovation, that was an ordinance that we did to appropriate money also, correct? So is that different than what this is being done?
Yeah, if it's written differently.
No, forget how it's written. I mean, just that we said we want,
Yeah.
we did an ordinance
Yeah.
for 2.5 or whatever it was, and he was just saying we want an ordinance for 400,000.
400 for the intersection.
So forget the amounts, but I mean, the principle is the same, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
My purpose was not to stop it, my purpose was just to get it done correctly.
Is it inappropriate for me to ask that we have a finished document ready as this document was to be ready for the next meeting?
Right, that's fine.
That's fine?
When's the next meeting? Hold on a second.
February 5th.
February 5th.
Okay, so,
Sounds good to me.
And almost 3 weeks is an extra week. in
3
between.
weeks? Okay, fine, that's, the 3 weeks I can do it.
So we'll expect a new ordinance regarding the subject?
Right.
If you pass an ordinance tonight, what prevents you from amending it at a later date?
Because you pass it tonight, and you publish it, and then you gotta do the whole thing from scratch and pay the money all over again because it's a totally different ordinance.
It's an amendment.
No,
right?
that's what I would say is a major amendment. It's not an amendment. You'd be redoing the entire ordinance. It's not an amendment. It's basically a new ordinance.
Okay.
You're not changing a word of saying, okay, let's have a public hearing, and the word "the" should be "then." Okay, that's not a big
And-
deal. This is a
and-
real change.
And in the meantime, a meeting will occur with the county to confirm Mr. DeSena's promises and commitments in this regard?
All I want to say is I have a meeting set, but they kind of were going to run the agenda. So if this is one of the things that they're putting on the table early, I'm certainly going to share everything that comes from that meeting, so. And I'll specifically ask about it since we're talking about it.
Will that present a problem with the time, Mr. Polar? Excuse me, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be jumping into everything. Will that present a time with your drafting and production of the next ordinance, Mr. Polar?
No, I could do the ordinance anyway, without,
Once word comes back from this meeting?
yeah,
So for the February 5th meeting, we'll have a ordinance.
that's my intention.
Is the
So just,
council okay with this?
yeah, so just to, if you redraft this and get it to, who'd you say, Bob?
Byfield?
Yeah.
Byfield.
Sometime next week, and then we get the approval, and we get an email that says, great, it's drafted, it's out there. We always seem to wait, not for any reason, but we get these things at the end, and we try and read them, and so if you can redraft it, go to Byfield, get the okay, and come back and shoot us an email which says, here's the redraft, then at least we'll have it before anything happens, we can have questions, and then next meeting we're done.
I am going to try and do that. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going on vacation tomorrow. I will tell you right now.
All right, so you didn't say that.
All right, so, but you gave me the 3-week period, I can get it done. So that's what I'm going to tell you. If you tell me I have to have it done in 2 hours tomorrow, it's not going to be done.
Council, have any other questions regarding the subject?
No, and thank you for putting this up. It was, I think it, for good reasons or bad, I think it's propelling it forward. So thanks for putting it together.
Thank you.
Do you want to table it?
Can I get a motion to table it for tonight till the February 5th meeting?
I'll move it. I'll move that motion.
Yeah, motion.
I'll second it.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Moving along to individual resolutions, Resolution 18-142, a budget transfer of vehicle maintenance. Motion to introduce Resolution 18-142.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Consent agenda, all of the following items have been determined to have an unanimous consent of council and will be enacted in one motion. Should any item require independent consideration, any council member may have such item removed from the consent agenda. Resolution 18-143, authorize refund of escrow monies in the amount of $298.28. Resolution 18-144, authorize execution of grant agreement for senior citizen activities. Resolution 17-145, Resolution 18-145, authorize signatory to Bergen County Trust Fund project contract. Resolution 18-146, appointment of zoning board of adjustment members. Do I have a motion to move them?
So moved.
Well, I'll second, but I have a question.
Sure.
On the 145, it talks about a contract that the mayor will sign. Can we get a copy of the contract? Can we pull it to whatever the contract is? So we
Wait,
can just take a look at, huh?
It's a county contract. We don't have any say in the language. We're bound by what is.
I understand, but one of the things I spoke about the first meeting is that we'd like to start reviewing contracts. I don't think we've ever seen them, not for any reason. We can't change it, but, it would be nice to know what the contract says. The mayor has to sign it, I get that.
I'm just looking to see if we have any time constraints on this. This is the one for open space?
Yep.
All right.
Project contract, yeah, Gardner Park,
We have 90 days from receipt, so we're okay.
okay. So we get a copy? We'll pull it and get a copy of it? Sent out to the council?
Yeah, I mean, there's some spaces that the CFO has to sign. I was going to have her sign after the mayor signed, but I can do that in advance. It's a standard form.
Okay.
Any other questions regarding the resolutions?
Bob, I'm not necessarily looking to rush it, but since it's kind of boilerplate from what Mary Ann is saying, would you be okay getting it after the fact, or you want to see it ahead of time?
Yeah, I'd rather see it ahead of time, only because I just want us to see these contracts. I mean, in the past, we never really, when you were on the council,
No problem.
we never
Yeah,
saw anything.
Yeah.
So it'll be good to have it. So I guess.
So you want to pull
So Mike,
18-145?
I'll make a motion to pull 18-145 till we receive the contract.
Okay. Motion?
I motion.
Second?
Second.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. We got a motion to approve 18-143, 18-144, and 18-146.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Adjournment to conference agenda, the motion?
So moved.
Mike, before you do that, just a quick comment, going back to the intersection. I want the public to know, we're all up here to get the intersection done. We may have these small disagreements, but this is not going to impact the speed at which we get it done. These things will be worked out very quickly, but it's good sometimes to have a difference of opinion. But, we're all in agreement that this has to move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes.
Now they're on the tracker. Now we're on the tracker.
Yeah, did you get a copy?
Okay, first thing on the conference agenda is the project tracker.
Marion, when are you expecting a quote on those doors?
I don't know. The gentleman that Mr. DeSena referred us to was contacted, I believe, the next day, and he came out, and no quote yet, so,
Okay. But he did come out?
yes,
All right.
thank you.
Was that the only quote we're getting, was one quote on there?
Well, we tried for 3 other vendors, came out, and no one gave us a quote, and that's when Mr. DeSena said, I have somebody. So it first started out to be all the doors, and then it was pared down to 3 doors, and still no vendors were giving quotes, so I'm not sure what the problem is.
I'll reach out to him tomorrow.
Okay.
And I just have one update to this, even since it went to print on the police dispatcher. We expect to make an offer of employment for another civilian dispatcher by the end of the week.
Excellent. Where is that? Oh, that's here, I see, okay. No. What page is that, second page?
First page,
First
About
page.
halfway down.
just above contracts.
Okay.
The drainage, that work is complete with the exception of landscaping?
Yes. Just completed today. Yesterday was asphalt and concrete forms were made. Concrete was poured today. It has to cure. There are blankets over it. But the drainage work was done prior to this week.
The landscaping that's contemplated, do you know what that is? Do we have
I
a...
think it was bare bones, and I think the actual landscaping is a separate project.
Because since we're going to be doing the front walk, perhaps that front bed in front of the stairways could be incorporated, and maybe we could get a refresh on the landscaping in front of Town Hall?
Sure, if I'm still here.
On the, so the quest, we can't do, I know we have a session, but the quest, we can't do anything until we get onto someone's property? So they can't give us a report as to what they took from the municipal complex at this point?
That's correct.
Yeah.
I spoke with Tom Forster from Quest, and he said that they want that piece of information to go into the report. And as I said to you at the last meeting, I believe, notices went out and a final notice went out. We were just giving a certain amount of time for them to respond. I don't think they're going to be responding, so the next step is that we're going to have to go to court and get an application to the court to get onto that property.
What's the timing on all that, do you
Well,
think?
it'll take a while.
Months?
Months? It'll probably take 2 months. And I say 2 months in terms of when I would hope to get it before a judge to rule on. If, you know, the court system is the court system, so the Washington Township access may not be the most important thing, and so it's subject to the court docket and what they feel is, you know, emergent or important. They have other cases as well, so just to give you an idea.
At this point, does Tom feel that we should spend the additional $2,000 and get the report into DEP so we get this?
He doesn't want to, I asked him.
So that's not an option any longer?
He said that he said he checked with, I think, his superior, Darren Vogel, and he does not want to submit this without the results of that.
Have we physically approached the family at that address?
Yeah, Mary Ann approached him twice.
Okay.
Yes. I knocked on the door once, and a teenager answered. Spoke to him, asked him, handed him a copy of the letter, asked him to have his parents call me, and then went again to follow up, and there was no answer at the door.
Okay.
So we're basically at an impasse with it. Can't do anything.
We have to go to court to get access to get these samples.
On the different topic, the grant writer, I know Peter, when Orth came with that woman, she seemed to present, like stuff. Are we anywhere with that?
I'd like to move on it. It ties a little bit into the next topic. Let me say, are we done with Project Tracker to go into the next topic, or?
Is now that the, Mary Ann, now that the outside work is completed, I know we were holding off on the flooring in the police department. Is that going to get scheduled now, or are we still going to wait a little?
I asked Bill in the DMF to get it going as soon as possible. We've also put out for quotes for the town hall as well. But yes, I asked him to get that scheduled again.
Okay. We also have Bill look at the house next to the firehouse. The roof looks like it's in serious need of repair.
I don't know if Bill is
Or
qualified
whoever,
to do
we
it.
just need somebody to go take a look. It's really in bad shape. Both the garage structure and the roof, it looks awful.
We're the landlords.
Yeah, if you look at it, it's shot.
I agree.
One more question. On the specs for the basketball court, who's making those specs, Mary Ann?
I had asked Mr. Teal's office if they had drafted anything so that they could turn it over to Paul Azzalina. It may have already been prepared, the idea being that Memorial and Gardner Field would be done together. We had delayed Memorial Field, if you recall. We do have some time sensitivity to getting the Memorial Field done. And I have to follow up with Mr. Steele's office on a few things. In talking to the mayor, the idea was to not have Mr. Azzalina reinvent the wheel, was to get if anything was near completion, have Mr. Steele's office complete it. If something was in the works where their grant had been obtained and there was substantial work done, get the work so that we can transfer it over to Mr. Azzalina. So it's only works that were started, projects that were started that Mr. Steele was finishing off. If it was just that he secured the grant, we would have Mr. Azzalina do it, but we would try to utilize whatever work Mr. Steele had put together.
And we don't know what he's done to date?
Not yet. I asked him at the end of last week. I believe he may have taken a few days off, so I'll follow up with him.
Okay. Anything else, gentlemen, on Project Tracker? Next item on the list is the budget. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you. Yes, obviously did not have it yesterday. I don't have it tonight. It's not for lack of trying. I said I would try. The administrator and I have been working on it. Some business at least some of it every day, talking about it, meeting with department heads. There's, prior things that need to be done due to inaction that occurred. So some of the department requests are large. We're working on prioritizing things, understanding that we can't necessarily all get it, catch up on everything in 1 year. Let me say, again, I don't want to promise because things come up, but since there's 3 meetings between now and the next meeting, it should definitely be, and if I have it done beforehand, I'm happy to disseminate it to all of you even before the next meeting.
If you could, that would be
Yes,
great.
yeah. And Bob, to go back to the grant writer, again, I didn't want to detour onto that topic even until I can get the budget done, but right afterward, I'll resurrect discussion with her.
And just so you know, numbers are still coming in on a daily basis. Today, we just received the fire hydrant number, which is a large number. It didn't increase much from last year, and we're still waiting on a very big number for the budget, which is the BCUA charges. And we may not get them for a while, and that could affect it. If there's a huge increase, there may be other lines that have to be pared down, so.
But let me say, we won't wait for every single number, like I said in the past. If we have all the expenditures, ready, except for those that we don't control. We'll just make notes on those so we can all get started
Could we
collectively
just
sooner than
insert
later.
could we just insert the prior year's number with the asterisk or something? saying that-
Yeah.
Well, that's what's been done so far.
Right.
For those, that's already been in there.
Okay. Next thing on the, is communication with on-call EMS staff for inclement weather.
So
Put that on.
I put this on because at the ambulance corps dinner, in talking with some of the volunteers, they had mentioned, which I thought was a good point, that in the past, in inclement weather, whoever was on call, there was communication, I guess, from the DMF and the administration to whomever was on call to make sure that they were able to get out of their house, like in this case, snow or whatever. And I don't know, with the fire guys, I'm sure they're always on call, but I don't know if we are communicating with these people to say, if the ambulance has 3 people on call, to make sure that they get out of their streets. So they mentioned it to me, so I put it on here, which I thought was a good call out from their part.
Certainly is. I don't know, Mary Ann, if you know if there's a procedure in place, but I'll reach out to Bill to see if there's an ambulance point person they can talk to see who's on the schedule and give priority to those streets.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, I'm sure Bill wouldn't mind if you gave him the cell phone number. I personally have never been involved in that since January of 2016. I don't know if the mayor herself had handled it, or it was something with the DMF, but I'm sure they wouldn't be averse to it.
Anything else, Mr. Ward? Moving on to the council agenda.
Mr. President, I'd like to ask to suspend the rules so we can talk about our 2 residents over here and their business. We can
Okay.
put that at the top of the agenda, so they don't have to stay around for the whole long, fun meeting that we're having.
That's fine.
Okay.
Thank you. You can come back up.
We can just discuss it.
Oh,
We'll
you
discuss it at length. Yeah, you don't need to come, you don't need to come up, you can just sit there and listen.
They already gave you the problem.
Yeah.
So, anybody have any thing they'd like to add to?
So can you explain what the township is acknowledging, or what the township is writing or providing to the residents?
I didn't see the letter, so I don't know what
It wasn't a letter, they just came in and asked
Okay.
to get
Oh,
their
okay.
renewal.
No, they said they got their past letter.
Oh, it's standard letters.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, the way I view this situation is, there, to me, is not a problem with somebody having a car operating out of their house and they're a limousine driver. That's not a problem. We have an ordinance about commercial vehicles and lettering and stuff like that, but that's not that, okay? Where the issue came in, and it's come in before, where we've had people have more than one car, or operate the business where there's people coming there, and things like that. And under our zoning ordinance, it's not a, permitted use, that kind of a thing. So it would really take probably a amendment to our zoning ordinance in the long term to correct that problem, so you don't even have it. This situation here, I mean, I would have to see the DMF, the DMV request of what they're asking for, to tell you what the town is saying, that kind of a thing. So, I mean, I don't have a problem I would say this, if you're trying to expedite this and you want to take a vote tonight to allow these people to have their car, their vehicle to be approved as a single limousine vehicle in their driveway, and you want to do that, and that would be enough for the zoning officer to sign off the letter, I would think. I mean, it's not the norm, but
You have the paperwork,
No,
the correct, the long-range correct thing is in the permitted uses, and we specifically prohibit things. You could carve out something and say a limo driver who uses a single, whatever, however you want to do it.
if I could interrupt for 1 second
Yeah.
and address the council. They're not the only group.
Okay.
But there's been a few of them.
Right.
And, you know, it's probably something that should go across the board.
Okay.
I'm giving you currently what the zoning ordinance states.
Oh, no, I know what the zoning ordinance states here.
You know.
Oh, yeah, I thought you were giving,
No,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, to the council, I mean,
I thought you were giving me the form from the DM.
no. Mr. Paulo and I have had many discussions on this because I had a very hard time wrapping my arms around how this was addressed. And once he got me straight and I started telling people, no, they're very upset. And like I said, you know, these people are the first or third of three people that have come in very upset saying it's their livelihood. You know,
But I think there's, I mean, the town itself sets a precedence by giving whomever letters for several years in a row. And then we say, you know, thanks, I read the ordinance. You know, there's a precedence that's been set
so then,
by the town, in my opinion. And so I guess I don't understand why we're breaking tradition or precedence, other than the fact that there's some real serious infraction. And I don't know if there is or there isn't. So I guess that's my opinion, you know. I don't see why we would set a precedent for years and years and years and then come up and say, no, thanks, sorry.
Bob, I think continue on, that's why I asked if they've been in violation or have been issued any summonses for having too many vehicles in their drive. I mean, if you can't tell that the vehicle is a limousine or, you know, it looks like an ordinary vehicle, I don't know why we would object to allowing them to continue, so we legally can give them permission today.
I said, if you wanted to take, you know, just so that the zoning officer has the authority to, you know, not.
And then I think we
issue-
should, if we could
One
then,
vehicle.
yes, Mr. Cummings.
One vehicle.
Yes, one vehicle, yes.
One
That's the
vehicle.
point, yeah.
Yeah, one
Identified
vehicle.
only by the license plate.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to continue the use of this, well, applicant, for lack of a better word, for one vehicle.
And I'd like to include in that motion that Mr. Pollard review the ordinance, and we have some discussion on amending it to give people a one-vehicle shot with, you know, penalties if they abuse that privilege. So if we could look at that in the upcoming
We
meeting.
do have an ordinance that talks about vehicles, certain types of commercial vehicles in the park, in their driveway, correct?
Right,
Ken?
yes, yeah.
And, you know, when you talk about a home occupation, if you look at the home occupations here, you know, all these occupations are done in a home, in a structure, in a building. His occupation is technically not done in a home. It's done in a vehicle, okay? There's very few, you know, occupations that are on this list that would do it in a vehicle whatsoever. Though I do know of a chiropractor who does have a mobile unit, okay? But it wasn't too successful, to be quite honest with you. So again, I don't think that this would apply. I think it would be more applicable to that ordinance with the vehicles. You know,
Well,
with
if
the
Mr.
commercial
Pollard could
vehicles.
research that, get back to
Yeah.
us with his recommendations,
So-
I'd appreciate that.
That would be my recommendation, continue the use at this point. There's no violations.
This business is less intensive than all the ones on this list.
Of course.
I mean, to have a vet, to have a dentist, to have a lawyer, a psychologist, an optometrist, you're going to have people coming to this business. You're going to have an increase in traffic, you're going to have an increase, you're going to have parking, you're going to have people going in and out. If I understood the business, as the residents explained, there is no people coming in and out. It's done essentially on an app that this gentleman responds to. So this is a less intensive purpose. You know, perhaps, you know, we need to think about these types of functions and, you know, account for them as business change and business models change. We don't want to be an unfriendly town to commerce.
I
By
agree.
the way, that's a really good point, to look at it and expand it to, you know, this is very restrictive, what you can do in your house, and you're right, you can carry on businesses from your computer and not do anything. So just because it's a business doesn't mean that it should not be a permitted thing, so I think that's
Something we need to review.
Yeah.
Ken, does this fall into the new Codification.
No, we wouldn't do it for the codification, no.
So Mr. Casio has made a motion to...
Second.
Mr. Bruno, you second?
May I ask one more question, please?
Sure.
I'm sorry. I have someone else in the same exact situation. Can this be,
Did we give them letters in the past?
yes,
It's a same.
same thing, in
Delivery
the
service?
residential area, one vehicle,
For the
only
same,
phone calls, same purpose.
same purpose?
No signage on the vehicle?
Mm-mm, just their limo plates. Has checked into renting in the town square where it's zoned commercial to find out that there is no room in the town square and it would be a $2,000 a month rental fee that this gentleman can't afford. No more than I ask these people to afford.
May I speak? May I say something? No?
Not at this point.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
No, I just want,
So I would just,
Next meeting.
ask if it could be considered with this other business as well.
It's the same exact issue?
Same, in fact, actually, I have two. There's another one that was checking in the zoning office, was going to another town, saying, gave me a typed-up letter that they had gone to another town to have their office, and I asked if I could see proof from the other town clerk to make sure they were registered, to make sure that we are, just not having people write letters. And I have not heard from her, so I have actually 3 people right now in the exact same
Make
situation.
it that anybody with one?
We could, yeah, well, I think we can blanket in general.
Can we?
Can we?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you can, and it doesn't really, it's not material whether you've issued a letter before or not. If somebody comes in, they have one vehicle, they're in their house, it's not lettering outside, it just has the plates, they're operating out of their house. I think that gives the freedom to the zoning officer to say, okay, not a problem.
Mr. Bruno, you still okay to second that?
Yeah.
I
Fine.
appreciate that. These people will be very happy tomorrow. Thank you.
Roll.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Koenig?
Yes.
Councilman DeSena?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Jeanette Benoit? All five, yes.
Can I ask that this be put on the next conference agenda to discuss the breadth of other businesses? We might as well do it all at the same time. Okay.
Next subject is the appointments. Any new appointments from the mayor? We discussed this before. Anybody else have anything to add?
So, well, at the reorg meeting, we didn't approve some appointments. So basically, they're holdovers. So in that regard, what's the purpose of having appointments made with consent of council, and whether we give the consent or not, they're held over? That's basically my general question to the council at this point. What's the purpose of that? Are we just here to yes the administration on anything that they so desire? Do we have a function? Do we have a power? And, do you want to approach it in a different way? Does anyone have any?
Who are you asking?
I'm asking the council, I'll ask the attorney as well. What's the purpose of that particular
Well, you're asking-
verbiage?
Okay, well, let's have
Yeah,
the council,
I am.
ask the council.
I did.
Does anybody have any?
Well, my view is that we're being asked to affirm the appointment. And by not affirming the appointment, we're essentially saying that we don't approve. On a much smaller scale or a much larger scale, I think we see this happen at the federal level on a regular basis. My question to Mr. Poller is sort of to put the parameter that Dr. Casio asked is, if there is a holdover, is it limitless? Is it can we operate in this manner for 4 years? Or does the holdover essentially end at some point in time by statute?
The answer is no.
Okay. So then, it really is a power that is powerless.
Not really. Not really. It's a provision that allows for the continuation, because the appointing, by the way, the appointing authority is the mayor, period. So that was his choice, and that's what the law provides for a holdover.
No, I'm saying by dissenting or by not consenting, there is no power in that by the council. There's effectively no action. We could not consent to any of the appointments, and they would continue in their role for essentially ever, or until the next mayor makes appointments.
Well, the ones that you did not approve are holdovers, and there is no specific term for the holdover.
Okay. So in our, and I don't know if it's a factor of our form of government or the statutes or ordinances that oversee our particular town, but being a council person and being asked to consent, we're actually, we're powerless to affect any change by dissenting or not consenting. I mean, you're powerless. You may not be able to accomplish every goal that you set out to do, and that obviously you set out of a goal to do that, and it may be that every goal that you set out to do, you may not be able to do, okay? So your consent is important on a lot of things. This one just works this particular way.
And that's by state statute, local statute, federal statute?
State statute, local statute, case law.
Anything else, everybody?
On the appointments, you mean, like, are you done with A and B, or?
Well, there's no new appointments. I think he asked first, right?
Okay. I mean, I'd like to speak for a moment or two on the appointments. To address Mrs. Osmond's comment, I'm not going to take the council or the town through what happened in parts of the election, but we all wanted a new township. We all want a new township. However, I never considered that as a clean sweep of the personnel in the township. Sitting on the council for 4 years, we were all stymied by the same thing that these directors were stymied with. And so I have spoken to all the directors, those that were appointed and those that were not appointed. They all have a vision that I believe we all share for the township, to make it new again. But existing people can do that, are willing to do it, and just like we were stymied, they were stymied. And so I'm willing, I put my neck and reputation on the line by nominating them. I'm willing to give them the shot, just like this new council and new mayor is asking for a shot to do things correctly for the town. And so, I took the time to talk to them. I would welcome all the council members to reach out to them, to talk to them, individually, a group, whatever, to see, just opposed to saying no to them without hearing from them, I think is a little unjust to them and to the positions they serve. And so I would ask the council to, do more research other than say they're just holdovers and so they must agree with the way things were done. I have found that's not the case. I ask that you, do some due diligence and reconsider these appointments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Anybody else on that subject? Moving along to Memorial Fields.
Can I do have a comment. And this is not to put anybody on the spot, but there was a comment made tonight when we were asking about a project, and the response was, if I'm still here. To me, I don't know what that means. But I think it's an issue, and I'm not, it's, you have a holdover, and is it going to be, well, I wasn't consented, so let me just approach it a different way, or how are we going to go forward?
I'm going to answer this real quick.
I'm happy to if you don't want to.
I'm
You're both gonna-
a professional. I've treated you all with respect. I don't feel I've been treated the same way. That comment was point of fact. Everybody's acting like nothing happened, but something happened, and that's all I'll say. But I'll do my job. I give my blood, sweat, and tears to this place. I came in on Saturday, this past Saturday. I've been working through lunch as usual. So, that's all I have to say.
I appreciate that.
I just want to say the holdover situation has nothing to do with personalities or people, and it's more about what has occurred in the past, and not blaming anybody. It's just something. Mary Ann, you did a wonderful job for me the other day. Thank you. I would not take that away from you. You spent a lot of time with me. So, it's just something that needed to be done, and it had to go that way. Sorry about that.
Well, I think I would like the benefit of a conversation with many of you individually, not to go much further into this, but I think you have some preconceived notions about how I got the job to begin with. I had no relationship whatsoever, did not know Mayor Sopkowitz before I got the position on my merits, and let's just talk about it later.
I think we need to all sit down and
Okay.
discuss it. I don't think right now is the time. I know you're upset, and so I see it. So, Mr. Bruno, if you have anything else, I think we should just move
No,
on.
that's fine.
And again, I ask that the same consideration go to the other three members also. I'm sure they'd be happy to talk to all of you and let you know their vision and plan for the township, and see that it is closely aligned to all of ours, I want to say.
Moving along to the Memorial Field topic that's on the agenda. Anybody, I guess, Mr. Mayor?
I think when you read them, you'll be up to snuff as to the general activities, and then it's conversation. It could actually shorten your meeting instead of sitting there for 4 hours.
Happy to
So
do that,
if you
yeah.
go through that, then you'll know where they're at.
And I just have one other comment on Memorial Field, because everyone seems to agree that the field needs new lighting. That doesn't seem to be a bone of contention with anyone. So I was talking with the town engineer, Paul Azzolina, about that. He had what I thought was a great suggestion. He said, why don't you buy the lights, that way you start to get the benefit of them, put them on the existing poles, that way you're not spending money moving anything, and then when you come up with a long-term plan for the field, if it requires moving, that's when you do new poles and stuff. But we can realize a tremendous electric savings, reliability savings, as far as, the new LED bulbs. You can't compare them to the old, the bulbs even are warranted for 20-plus years. So the town could start to get the benefit of that. And, I think all parties kind of agree that lighting is something that it needs. So with that being said,
Can Mr. Azzolino put together a little report of what the cost would be and what?
Yes, and to that end, I was just about to say, I plan on including it in the capital budget for discussion also.
Okay.
Yeah, I think my only comment is we just have to be careful about bubble gumming the field.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's why he said, when you come up with your long range, if you see things have to be moved, you set new poles, and, it's not that hard to move these lights. But, a long-term plan for the field, could take a while. Why not get the benefits of the new lighting starting sooner?
Anything else, Mr. Bruno? Moving along on the agenda, the Firehouse DMF, Mr. Mayor, any update on that? Where we stand with the proposals?
I have a couple of architects who have reached out to us who would like the business, obviously. So I'm narrowing down, talking to each of them. That's for the firehouse, and, they have to include looking at the existing house to see, if that can be, brought up to code, spec, and usefulness. But it also will include, if they don't feel that that can happen, an alternative to replacing the house. The DMF part, although I totally agree that it needs to be accelerated also, what I'd like to do is wait for this study to come in, because everyone I'm dealing with has said they would like a shot in a new design of either the existing or new building to add on an ambulance corps bay, give them new meeting spaces and like that. See if they are interested in moving or not once we can present a plan to them. Because then we would know if we have the ambulance corps property to play with the DMF. So not looking to unduly delay that, but I don't want to rush a DMF thing. What that property, could potentially be in play.
So we've seen 6 months? 3 months?
I'd like to make the decision on the architect by the end of this month. Most of them have said 3 to 4 months for the study, so well within 6 months.
Okay. Anybody else on that?
So I know there was a proposal by a architect to do an evaluation of the facilities and some of the functions that are housed in them. I don't believe the mayor ever moved forward with that. It sounds like we still need that in some way, shape, or form. And I guess I appreciate that Peter is interviewing architects and that we're trying to push this forward. I guess I'm just trying to understand, is there a grand plan at this point? Is the firehouse co-joined with an ambulance bay? Is that the direction, or are we going to get to a point, are we going to progress this to a point and then realize that it doesn't work for the ambulance, they don't want to sell, it's not going to, the fire department doesn't want them there? I guess, are we designing something that we don't know if we can actually execute, or should we understand all the moving parts first? So, a chicken and an egg type of situation.
We're certainly not ramming anything down the ambulance corps' throat. They will have a say on it, but we would like to tell them what we envision, if they choose to move forward, what we see there in a new, in either a rehab building or a new building.
Could we?
Sorry, Mike.
Could we possibly start dialogue with them sooner than later? So if it's off the table, it's off the table.
Well,
I understand what you're saying.
We could, but I would appreciate if they would give consideration to at least look at our plan and see, does it make sense? I would hate to have it prejudged without looking at it.
But I would maybe just do a straw poll is even a viable option.
Yeah.
Because I'd hate to see us spend extra effort to design a whole plan and then to have them say, no, we're not moving.
All right.
I'm not speaking for them, just being devil's advocate here.
I mean, be happy to reach out to, probably the right person is Eugene Greco, who was just here, who was the president. I'll get him to, see if there's...
Is that in line with what you were asking, Mr. Albert?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think, we seem to be in a mode of wanting to push things forward, which I think is great. My only concern is that we have 3 sort of constituents here: the firehouse, the fire department, the DMF, and the volunteer ambulance. And do we have a vision, or can we create the vision, or can we create the redesigned firehouse if we don't know what's happening with the ambulance? So, do we bring that discussion in sooner, understand who's willing to do what, and then, work on that design? I think that's really it. Why go down a path if we're not going to
If there's absolutely no interest, okay. And I did talk to the DMF people and included them in on my feelings that I just shared. You know, they said as long as the ball is not dropped, you know, they're happy to wait another 6 months to see if that property was going to free up or not, to know what they're going to do or what we're going to do for them long range for their needs. So they're in on the loop also.
I think the cost of the study, Mike Ullman, if I remember, was $5,000 or $7,000 or something.
It was something along those lines.
And they were going to look at all the buildings, all the towns, they were going to interview all the employees at the firehouse, the ambulance corps, the DMF, and just put some sort of a Mike DeCenter plan together in terms of, you know.
I read the former.
Okay.
Perhaps he's, or that firm is one of the ones that is being considered.
Okay.
Anything else, gentlemen, on that subject?
No.
The next thing is Hillsdale Waste Transfer Station reopening, the appeal decision. I hope everybody's read in the newspaper that the DEP approved the reopening of the Hillsdale Transfer Station. I asked that this be put on our agenda because I think we need to, this council needs to object to the reopening. I know the DEP's made it you know, approval already, but unfortunately Washington Township bears the brunt of the truck route, and Hillsdale has the I mean, they host the transfer station, but still, they're not happy with the appeal either. So maybe if the mayor could reach out to our constituents in Hillsdale and ask how they'd like us to
I already
assist them.
have, because I attended my first mayor's meeting last week, which is the Pascack Valley Mayors Association. Spoke to the mayor of Hillsdale. Yes, he would like our support, you know, whatever we can offer them to co-fight this.
To fight it, correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So, you know, they would take the lead on it, I believe, since they are the hometown, but we will work with them in, you know, opposing it however we can.
Do we have any recourse with, is it the BCUA? Do they set the truck routes?
A traffic study was done in the late 80s, Mr. Ullman, and commissioned by the BCUA, and they dictated the routes that the trucks have to take to get to Hillsdale.
I mean, is that, so if we lose on the transfer station licensing, do we have recourse with the routing? I mean,
Mr. Pollard, do you think we have any
you know,
recourse
push
legally?
back on every avenue.
Can we, you know,
Picking up on what Mike said, we fought
It was
tooth
in
and
the 80s,
nail
right?
in the 80s and thereafter too, because there were a couple times when, and we went down to the county and we went down to the BCUA and we submitted, you know, engineer reports and opinions and counts and, you know, things, and it was large and it was detailed. Let me just say this, the problem is that Linwood Avenue comes off the highway and goes very nicely through the Washington Township area to Hillsdale. Flat, easy, simple route, and they want to get trucks there, and they don't beg off on that so easily. I mean, that's the problem.
we charge them a toll? It's I think the article said it was 79 trucks a day.
Yeah,
People don't realize how many trucks a day.
I mean, we brought up all sorts of stuff about the schools and about the shopping areas, about the quality of life, about the dangers, about everything. We gave them alternate routes along Van Emberg Avenue and up, sorry, Mike.
Let's not go crazy.
Not my backyard. Excuse me. We gave them all sorts of other routes and things, and it's difficult to say the least.
That's a fight you're not going to win.
No.
You're not going to win it, so.
But I think we should try to assist Hillsdale
Yes.
as
Yeah.
ever possible,
Assist them
council and mayor.
you know, support them, but there's really not much we can do. I don't think we want to spend, you know,
No.
cash on it. If they want to spend cash on appealing the appeal, which probably won't go anywhere, there's not much we can do, unfortunately.
Has Waste Management declared if they're opening it? I mean, they've been granted the license.
I think
I
read
think the
somewhere
building's
that
been
they would-
renovated and ready to go.
They
so-
would like to, yeah.
Okay.
Because I know they fixed the roof according to the article, and they're ready to go, so.
All right.
Of course, the police could be pretty active in patrolling the truck traffic and make sure the trucks are in proper form and all the signals are being obeyed, and, you know, they could do a very good job of that.
I mean, you see it on 17. They come out with the portable scales, they come out, the sheriff's department, you know, it's like ka-ching. Not that that's why we would do it, but, I mean, we certainly should,
If we can't stop it, let's make sure they adhere to all the
There's
rules.
violations, there's violations.
you know, liquids dripping out, I mean, they have to
Right.
control all of that. We have ordinances for it.
Right.
Anything else on that, gentlemen? Next thing is swim club discussions it was put on the agenda to possibly alleviate some of the use at Memorial Field to take some of the load off there. I know we're looking for additional avenues. So I know the former mayor had started dialogue with them and then abandoned the issue. So maybe, Mr. Mayor, if we could revive that issue.
Yeah, again, I just want to talk to the people tomorrow night, the committee, and
Correct.
see.
So, but we
But
just
I'm open to it.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I just also, if I may, Mike, take
Yes,
it
Mr. Brewer.
one step further. They do a lot of work with us for their rec programs, and it would be a great, I think there's more synergies that we can do with them. I mean, let's be honest, they need help financially. We need the pool, so I think there's a discussion with the presidents, so at least we can maybe help everybody out in the town, so.
Agreed.
We have a license with them, right, Ken, to run our recreation programs through them,
Through,
The swim club.
through the swim club.
do we have licenses? I have no idea what we have.
No.
It's not a formal license, I think, we just have an agreement.
An agreement. We have a licensee,
I'm
licensee.
not sure, I know that I haven't drafted an agreement, not that I drafted.
Well,
No, I
didn't we-
think there's just an arrangement whereby
Yeah, but you're
at
asking
certain
about that.
days of the week, the
I
recreation,
have no idea what they have.
the summer recreation
I
program
remember
goes
back,
there.
we had something where we couldn't use the swim club because we had to do something with liability. I'll look into it.
Okay, well, that may have been a JIF issue, maybe?
Could have been.
Could have
Don't
been.
know.
Could have-
Back in
could have been a
2005
co-
or something like
Could
that.
have been a
This is-
coverage, could have been.
But we have been using it in the past. In the last year, they went there on a weekly basis, correct? Maybe?
Yeah, there's some
Yes.
activities that run out of there.
Okay. So maybe we could expand things and assist them, and they could assist us.
Sure.
The Aesthetics Committee? I don't know, but
Yeah, so,
Mr. Brewer?
you know, this, I mean, I think we've all talked about this for years. The town, the aesthetics of the town is just deplorable. And it's new day, new budgets, new finances, so I think we should think about a committee to just really change the look of the town. You know, the signs, maybe paint them, get a corporate color, put some flowers around. Mike mentioned the front of the building. We have a sign across from Bakari that's just, it has like one twig, which I think was a carnation that somebody stuck in the ground at one time. So this is something I think is important, and we should get some sort of a committee to clean up the town. So when people come in, you know, even the front, where the electric board is there, you know, just make it look presentable. You go to these other towns and they're just stunning when you enter the towns and you look. So we should get some sort of a committee, which I can ask around, see who would like to head it up, and
Mr. Schneid would be a good person, because he's been asking for that for 9 years plus.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
and
but
maybe
just-
we can make it part of the green team.
yeah,
you
just
know?
clean it up.
I don't think so. No, yeah, okay.
I mean, the signage, definitely. I think there's some samples up in Mary Ann's office.
Yes.
Yeah, and to that end, even before I saw this on the agenda, Tom Sears offered his services to head up a committee like this. You know, he says he has volunteers who are ready to go to work on it to make the town look the way it should. So we're on the same page.
The problem with the flowers, they look great, but you have to have a sprinkler system, you know, so that's why you can't do spot plantings. But it's, you know, there's other ways to beautify it.
I agree. You know, there's, you can put in, like in the fall, they put those cabbage-looking plants. They're all, the guy across the street from Bakari, the Stone Hill.
Yes.
I mean, his corner's gorgeous. I mean, that's all we need to do, contract with him, let him do the work around town, and it's nice. I mean, you know, and Seasons, I mean, they're
property is totally different. But
Outstanding.
yeah, I mean, it's just,
Outstanding.
it's not much that has to be done, but they can figure out what takes and doesn't take, so.
I just renovated our small place at Northgate, the front sign, replanted it for $100 or less personally, and had some help too. And it's not much work, and I would like to volunteer to also serve as a member of such a committee.
Okay.
It's close to my heart, since I have the horticulture degree.
Good.
Always nice to hear there's interest for these things.
Can you help me with my bamboo?
Sure.
Okay, we'll have to talk.
I know.
Anything else, Mr. Bruno?
No, thank you.
Anything else? Finance Director, update the status?
I announced it last meeting, if anyone was interested. Haven't gotten any takers yet.
Have we advertised there yet?
I thought about advertising, but it's really a job for a town resident. I can't see an out-of-town resident wanting to be a finance director in our town for what it pays. Yeah.
I think all directors have to be town residents.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, so
Okay,
it has to be someone from the town.
Yeah.
And that goes for pretty much all directors.
I
and
mean,
departments.
we could certainly put an ad, let's say, on the electric bulletin board, maybe, Mary Ann, something for a little while, looking for a finance director. But I don't know anyone who was interested. I asked a lot of people who had financial backgrounds. They just didn't have the time. Some are restricted by contracts with what they work with, that they can't take on something like that. So I'm open to, interview anyone who's interested.
CFO update status?
Not sure what you mean by,
Chief Finance?
yeah, well, I know the CFO part.
We're looking to hire one.
Have we done anything in the recruitment process, or?
We have one
Well,
that's
yeah, I mean,
appointed in 2 terms.
Yes, we have one, so, but I agree, and I think everyone here agrees that the town would be served by a full-time
Correct.
CFO. I don't want to jump the gun. I want to, it will be in my part of the budget to finance a full-time CFO. But until that's done, I think it would be premature to run any ads until we know that we're going to fund something like that. Even though we all agree verbally, I think it should be formalized in the budget before we advertise. But I think it's something we're all on board with, and so we'll just wait for that to happen.
Mr. Castro, the Tiger?
Yeah, the Tiger Grant, I've been in touch with Josh's office down in Washington, and he doesn't know where we're at with it. Do you have any idea who's heading that out of our police department?
The Tiger Grant?
Yeah.
I spoke to one of the officers. They thought their involvement was more in the 1033 program, not the Tiger Grant program. So maybe there's a miscommunication here.
They're doing 1033, but also we needed data information on the intersection to see if we can get funds. So do we have anyone we can use on that?
If it's traffic type data, I can reach out to Captain Hackbarth, who's an expert on all things traffic in the town.
We would need data on that.
Okay. Is there a template or something of the data you need from him?
I can get it. I got to ask them what they need.
Okay.
That's basically what I need. Basically a liaison for that intersection to give them the information to plug it into their form and whatever they have to do.
Okay. I mean, I'm happy to be the liaison, but if you want to reach out to him directly, Steve, I have no problem.
Okay, I'll reach out to him, see what he can do for us, okay?
Yep, thank you.
On a similar note, I believe Mr. Skinner is handling it now.
The 1033?
No, just the traffic in general, I think. I asked them to review putting up 2 speed limit signs on Colonial Boulevard
Yes, I followed up on that. That they say they have the signs.
Signs, they're going to put them up when the spring,
when
they
ground
drive
thaws,
close.
right.
So the police department has agreed to put up the 2 signs
Correct.
once the ground thaws, and we can set the new posts in the
Correct.
ground.
Yeah.
So we'll have 2 25-mile-per-hour speed limit signs on Colonial Boulevard.
Correct.
We're in the middle of Colonial?
No, on both
No,
ends.
on
On
both
both
ends,
ends.
yeah.
So this way, people when they
The
enter
Ridgewood Road and Washington Ave
Correct.
sides.
The small cut through that we have?
the small cut through. Yes. Anything else?
No, that's all. I just want to make sure I get someone to work on this.
Under Part B, ordinances and legislation, the change of the form of government.
So, yeah, I mean, I know it's the topic here. Ms. Ken had given us some potential changes, which I'd like everybody to, take a look at it, maybe we can discuss again. And I guess, Ken, my question to you is if we were to do the petition form or the petition route, is there language, specific language that needs to be drafted to give a resident for signatures, or how does that work?
I believe the statute sets forth what the language is supposed to be, as I recall looking at it.
Okay.
Well, I think there's specific language, Bob, but I think, before you go out and get
You need to know which form
you have to
it
know
was.
what form that you're gonna use,
I
if I'm not
understand.
mistaken.
I understand.
So, we have to decide, or if we do it that way, you have to decide what form you want. It's gotta stay in the Faulkner form, or the Old Township form, if I'm not mistaken. And then you can get the verbiage and then go from there, if that's what the council or the public deems they want to do.
Okay.
How you want to proceed with that?
Well, I think, we have the types. I mean, I have an opinion as to which one I think works for the town. It's my opinion. So I think the council should read, and the mayor should read the memorandum that Ken sent to everybody and start talking about which we think works.
Well, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the memorandum that Ken sent was a limited document, right, Ken?
No, it was a limited document. It was meant to be an overview, and it was pretty detailed. I mean, it wasn't the general overview of 2 pages. It was.
Well, I understand,
It was
yes.
a pretty extensive thing. However, what I left open was I highlighted the characteristics of the various alternatives that I thought you would be interested in, things like council power and, the division of appointments and all those things. I didn't go in every single little nuance of the government, which if you decided that you'd say, okay, I would like to take a look, we want to go with whatever it is, then I probably would update and see if there's any other provisions that might be of interest to you in making your final decision to say, okay, this is good, or is not so good, or whatever. But I mean, I gave you the essence, and it was pretty detailed of the essence of these governments. It's not, nothing was held back.
Or the end result, or the ultimate form of government, is it, whatever it is selected, if any, are they, to a lesser extent, boilerplated? I mean, or do we have much discretion as to?
There are things that are absolutely set and you can't change it. There are some things, small things that you can decide on, small variations that you can decide on, but the overall format of that government and the general powers of who has what power is set by statute.
Okay.
I guess the question I have, Ken, is somebody asked me, are there any variations to our form that we're not taking advantage of?
There are some alternatives.
To the exact form we have
Yes,
today?
there are. There are a few.
Can those be presented to us?
Sure.
In a separate memo,
Yeah.
if you don't mind?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, Mike, to answer your question, there are 2 forms. One is it's a council, there's a council chief executive or council manager, and then there's a council manager administration. And I think, I don't remember, Ken, but I think both of them, if you look at them, give options as to whether you're partisan, nonpartisan, whether you have 5 members, 10 members, and
Sure.
who does what. And those are the 2 that actually give a little bit more leeway in terms of deciding how it's set up. So those would be the 2 that I would suggest everybody look at. My
Okay.
suggestion.
There are alternatives even in ours, by the way.
Okay.
If you could highlight those, I'd appreciate that.
Amendments to those sections.
Did you get the, I'm sorry, I just wanted,
Go ahead.
Art asked a question on the numbers. So, Ken, did you get the memo from, okay, so there are, it'll show you, I don't have it in front of me,
You
but
didn't
it'll
get one,
show
Art?
you the forms.
You didn't get one?
They did, but he's just asking.
okay,
So
I'm
if
sorry.
you look at the forms, there's 4 forms, it'll show you. And then there are numbers in there, how many you can have and not have. You can have 10 people, 5 people. Yes, to answer your question.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else, gentlemen?
No.
Next item of discussion on ordinance and legislation, the intersection of Pascack and Washington, which I think we've discussed. If anybody would like to add anything at this time, or else we'll move on. Mayor's going to meet with the county next week. Mr. Pollard's going to have a new ordinance ready for us on February 5th. So that's what I took from our previous discussion. If anybody, has anything else they'd like to add at this time, or else we'll move on.
It's good.
You want to go?
No, no,
Okay,
please.
so I received a call from the owner of the Pelham Bond a while ago, and then the good news is she watches the television show. So she called again, and she asked for the, what the diagram looked like, so I sent it to her, but she did make a comment, which I thought was a valid comment, because she also saw that we did something with sidewalks. She said, her sidewalks have just been beat up so badly because the trucks run over them, and the curb is beat up, and she wanted me to just mention it, that, it's an issue. So I am. I don't know what the sidewalks look like, but apparently they've been beat up, which I can imagine from the trucks and everything driving over them. So, she's asking.
Based on our ordinance, she's responsible for it.
I know, but she's saying, these guys are driving over my
Yeah, that's not just foot traffic,
Yeah,
it's
it's
truck traffic.
a lot of traffic, and if we redo it, basically, those sidewalks are
Will
going to be
get
a
replaced.
non-factor, they're going to get replaced.
Yeah, those
Well, I know,
sidewalks will be
so I
replaced.
don't, I'm just bringing it up, I think we do nothing, obviously, but, I'm just voicing her opinion that, these sidewalks are beat up from that foot traffic, but, everything else that goes up and down there, so,
Okay.
thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Cullen?
No, sir.
Mr.
Thank you.
Allen?
No, I'm good.
Mr. Gaskin?
No, fine, thank you.
Next item of discussion is Recreation Department participation background checks, concussion certification, AED CPR training. I think we should make it mandatory that anybody that participates in any of our recreation programs have a background check completed, complete the concussion certification online, and I know in baseball, I can speak for baseball, the AED CPR is provided to every single one of our volunteers every 2 years by Mr. Stickle. He does a wonderful job. It's a nice donation from him. If we could work with his organization, but I think anybody that volunteers for any one of our recreation programs, whether they're youth or adults, coaches, volunteers, whatever, should have a background check done and have a concussion certification, the Rutgers certification card, and so forth, like in every other organization.
The background checks are so inexpensive, they're $8. I don't see why we can't spend $8.
That's why I'm asking that we make it mandatory.
Background. And then I think we got an email from the FBI and I think
We
it
can
was
get
the
it done
county,
for free.
and we could do it for free, so I say.
I think the only problem with the background checks is it has to be sent to somebody, because it is confidential, so we'd have to appoint somebody that's in a position of authority that would, have the ability, Mr. Collins, we'd have to figure out who that would be to receive the background checks. I don't want to put anything else on Mary Ann's desk, but it has to be somebody, because the background checks come back and they are.
Well, it's the Department of Recreation, the Recreation Director.
No,
No,
I
can't
believe
be.
it's already in the personnel manual that
Oh, it
it's
is?
the
Okay.
chief of police, and that they came to me, in discussing this, when this issue was raised a month or so ago. We priced it out, it's in the budget, it was in the temporary budget, I believe, if not, it's in the
Correct,
permanent
yeah.
budget. And I found that section of the manual. The chief didn't really think that was necessarily the best way to go, and he and someone else, I forget who was in my office that day, were going to suggest
So change to that.
changes,
Okay.
and obviously they would be discussed with.
As long as it's legally done, that the right
Yeah.
person's getting that information and can make that judgment. Because I know sometimes you get hits for names just because, you have a generic name, but you're not that criminal that's living in Washington Township.
Well, I don't know that you're supposed to be doing the fingerprinting for that very purpose, to make sure you're not
Well,
picking up the wrong purpose.
Lexus kicks back people sometimes.
Okay.
And then it tells you that's not, it's that name, but it's not the person in Washington Township.
Yeah.
But you get back a complaint.
Okay.
And since you bring up fingerprinting, I've heard that some people, although they don't have a criminal background, are reluctant to submit to fingerprinting for privacy concerns and like that. I don't know how it is on baseball, Mike.
You cannot volunteer if you do not meet all those guidelines. You're not
So
allowed.
baseball, you do fingerprint background check.
Little League of America requires that every single volunteer in person, youth and adult, we submit everybody for a free in our charter. We get a free background check, and then it's mandatory that they have concussion, Rutgers, and AED CPR training.
I assume, based on what you're saying, that
It goes to one of our officers
fingerprints
on the
are then
board.
destroyed, not kept on a file or anything.
We don't fingerprint. We just do the complete background check based. I forget I forget what level it is, but
Right,
it's
okay.
done by Little League of America.
Okay.
One thing, Mr. Mayor, are we going to have a new employee handbook? Are we going to work on a new one since it's been revised like every 3 years?
We're working on some, I don't want to say we're working on it. We have spoken about changes that need to go into it, again, right after the budget, but we have spoken about readdressing some things in there.
Okay.
So, yes, it's a topic.
On that note, I mean, when I first started, one of the first things I did was I had to become familiar with it. I read it cover to cover, and I had made some updates on policies that were not being, there were some inconsistencies with how vacation days were allotted or paid out at termination and so on and so forth. Also at the same time, or around the same time, JIF puts out every 2 years their model manual, and you have to include the provisions that they have. You can supplement them. But I worked with Mr. Poller, and we also revised certain parts of the manual. In fact, there was something that Ken had caught that he thought was contrary to law and brought it to the JIF attorney's attention. And so there was an exercise to it. If you think there's specific provisions, I know I disseminated it to all of you.
No,
you can raise
usually-
them to me, but
No, I'm not looking for anything specific. I know in the past, they've been revised every 2 to 3 years for little blurbs here to
Yeah.
make it consistent throughout the, I was just wondering if you were.
No,
That's all.
I can tell you, she did a lot of work in getting that.
So it's up to code.
Yeah, definitely up to speed. Now, if there were things that have to be changed, like anything else, it's a living document, it can
Right.
be changed, but it definitely was brought up to.
But it is in the 2018 era.
Yes.
It's in the 21st
That's your
century.
question, Mr. Cassia?
I have 6 sitting downstairs looking at them that was given, and they were all over a span of 11 years.
Right.
So it's basically every 2 years.
Yeah.
Well,
So
there's
I
a
don't
lot,
think-
yeah, there's a
I don't
lot of
think there's anything
updates
to
on, in the employment law field,
Okay.
which necessitates the amendments.
The next thing.
One more
sorry.
thing. We're talking about recreation department fees.
Yes.
And so if you get a chance, can you find out for the council and myself specifically, what other recreation departments are charging for their lacrosse, football, wrestling, what else do we have?
Basketball.
Basketball. If it's run by the municipalities or if it's run by private organizations. If you could do that, that would be great. So we can have a feel of what other.
And what's
departments do.
included in that too? Any equipment's included.
How it's broken down. Maybe you can call and ask first, does their townships provide for it? And just the surrounding communities. And if it does, if we can get their budget numbers, so we can kind of see where we fall with that particular avenue.
Although Steve said council, I'd like to get a copy also. I'm sure he meant for that and just omitted it.
People on the dais. I'll change it. Council's is a lot easier to say, but I'll.
Yeah.
Anything else on that, gentlemen?
Can we just be specific? So, do we want the budget? Do we want to know what they charge? Do we want to know everything? Because it's a pretty big net to cast and compile.
Well,
So,
specifically, I want to know, first of all, and probably the best way to do it, I shouldn't say the best way, probably the easiest way to do it is get the teams that are in our leagues with lacrosse, football, and our travel basketball. Those particular municipalities, see if the municipality supplies or finances them, and what they do and do not finance, if they do finance them. That's all. And I'll jump into, I can split the list with you.
That's why there's email.
There you go. It
Okay.
works. Email works.
Moving on, Mr. Bruno, you would like to discuss the retail marijuana store, medicinal and recreational
Yeah, so
legislation?
it's kind of interesting. The other evening, I got an email. I think you were on it, Peter. I was trying to figure out who was on it, but it was from a senior asking about this, and if I might make a joke, I don't know if they wanted the store or not, but
I had a few people joke to me when they saw it on the agenda, the way it's worded, it's like, oh, we're opening one in town.
Well, we have a new governor who's going to legalize it, and I think the question is, how does the township feel about retail marijuana stores in the township? Now, obviously, there wasn't like, so what are you going to do and not do? But I'm just putting it on here because I don't know if this is a zoning, planning, a council, or a resident. I have no idea how this would work.
Well, I
It's not going to be home use.
I know a couple of shore towns already have put ordinances on the books prohibiting them.
Yeah, I believe it was in the paper that Garfield now has also proposed it a little further north than the shore towns. And if I may just continue for a moment, that topic came up also at the mayor's meeting, and the mayors of all the towns are united in supporting passing something to not allow it open in our town.
So is that something Mr. Pollak will look for us and see what we need to draft and do? If the council also agrees with that decision?
Well, I mean, my only comment would be, recreational certainly might be contentious. If there is medical, though, are we inclined not to approve of medical marijuana?
From what I've read, Mr. Ullman, the medical is a true cash business because they can't have bank accounts. So it attracts people that are going there have legal responsibility to get it. But the dispensary is running an all-cash business.
Certainly.
And until something is done to help that business have a bank account, which they can't have right now, there's some dispensaries that have armed guards and security. So is that something we would want up at the town center? To have that, people with guns in the parking lot waiting for the people to get out of the medical dispensary. People are, they're getting it legally, but the problem is all this cash that's coming out of the building every day or every couple hours because they're doing so much. And they have to have, in Montclair, the dispensary has armed guards around it with guns, so.
Have to run it like a bank almost.
It's worse than a bank.
Yeah.
The bank don't have an armed guard anymore.
No, but they have a lot of cash on hand.
I think the greater question is, can you regulate commerce of this type of product? Can you regulate it? That could be discriminatory. I'm not for or against it, but that's an issue, and I'll have to defer to council. Why
don't we have a review the order?
Well, I'm going to have to take a look at the subject, obviously. If it's a legal product, you may not be able to outlaw the sale of it entirely. You may be able to control it. You may be able to limit it. You may be able to put parameters around it. It's brand new. It's something that would have to be looked at, and maybe get some of the other ordinances and take a look and see.
You don't want to limit commerce, but
It is, if it's a legal product, I don't know that you could ban the sale for just no reason. I mean, I don't know the answer.
Right, yeah.
But what I'm saying is, I don't know that you can say, We're not
No.
listening to that, we're not allowing anybody to sell it. Like, we're not, no liquor can be sold, or, well, liquor is the ABC, that's different. But what I'm saying is that it may be you cannot do a blanket prohibition, I don't know. Maybe that you have to limit it. I'd have to look at it, something to look into. If that's what you're...
Anything else,
That's
Mr.
what
Mr.
you're...
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't know the answer either, but it was asked, so.
I think it's something we need to research.
Get some guidance on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Next item of discussion is administrative departments.
We discussed that up in one.
Yep, we
It's kind of-
discussed that, yep.
okay.
Duplicate.
Get up there.
Next item is the 1033A Program Resolution 17-307.
And I think
We did
Mayor and
that.
I discussed it with Mr. Skinner's gonna help out on that.
Yeah.
before,
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Lieutenant Skinner.
Lieutenant Skinner.
And, yeah, he and the chief are working on the paperwork.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to be updated on that as opposed to...
Of course.
Be in contact with the Congressman's office.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what you're up to.
Okay, we have going into closed session, resolution number 18-148.
Mike, you gotta close the conference.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Motion to close?
Motion to close the conference agenda?
Motion.
Second.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes?
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Now, going to go into closed session for resolution number 18-148 regarding environmental claims. Motion to go into closed?
We're not coming back, right?
No, we're not coming back.
Motion.
Second.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes?
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes.